Hell, let's jump into our last and second story of the day regarding New York City governor being left stunned when her GOP opponent asks her why everyone is leaving New York. Now, this isn't the only time this has happened regarding states, predominantly blue states, because you look at the state of California. Really, I want to say in the first time in its history, it's losing a seat in Congress because of how many people are leaving California, which is blue. California's blue. Yeah, in Los Angeles, a quarter of the homeless population, just fentanyl overdoses left and right, which is, I believe it's the number one cause of death now between 18 and 34-year-olds is overdose deaths. You have massive homeless, which I mentioned. People can't even freaking pay to be housed anywhere or house themselves anywhere because it's so expensive. You got trash all over the ground. I mean, at one point, literally, there was an app in California, in Southern California, that you could track people's feces on the ground so you didn't step in it. They had a metal detect playgrounds to find syringes and needles from the homeless that were cutting themselves and injecting drugs and doing all this other crazy stuff. So this Democrat-ran state. But, let's watch the clip here of this lady just completely getting shellacked.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, and I've been asking for months, and my opponent still can't finish this sentence, so you can't expect her to ever fix it, but New York leads the entire nation in population loss because... She actually got asked this question by the media a few weeks ago when she was at Binghamton Airport. She probably would love to have a redo because she messed it up that time. For me, you asked me, why does New York lead the entire nation in population loss? Because their wallets, their safety, their freedom, and their quality of their kids' education are under attack. So they're hitting their breaking point. They're looking at other states like the Carolinas, Tennessee, Texas, Florida, and elsewhere, and they feel like their money will go further, they'll feel safer, and they'll live life freer. The state is at a crossroads. We were at a crossroads in 1994. When New York elected George Pataki, and we're at a crossroads right now. But as far as what happens with Kathy Hochul and one-party rule for 4 more years, outsized power of self-described socialists, we need balance and common sense restored to Albany.
We're coming down the...
Damn. I mean, we're going to continue, but damn. If you haven't hit that like and subscribe button, do it now. Again, if you didn't see the intro to the show in the first segment, we're being throttled here on the Bald Brad Show. YouTube is suppressing our viewership. We dropped 90% in a matter of 12 hours. So... hit that like and subscribe button. Leave a comment down below. That's how you do a debate, folks. Just completely shellacking there. I love this guy's whole demeanor and his attitude about everything. Let's continue. Let's see her response if there is one.
Home stretch.
Like I said, sound bites, not sound policy. That's absurd.
We're coming down the home stretch with only a few minutes. I'll ask you to be very brief with this. I want to ask about a downstate economic question, Mr. Zeldin. In normal times, New York collects more gaming revenue than any other state, about $3.7 billion. 2/3 of that is generated by scratch-offs and other lottery games. But right now, the state is moving toward approving up to 3 new casino licenses in the New York City area. Of course, in the years since legalizing multiple forms of gambling, we've seen upstate casinos underperforming. We've seen warnings from the state controller that the hidden costs of gambling addiction are not being addressed. In light of all you know, should New York alter or pause plans to allow for casino gambling in New York City?
Hold on. Why are we asking about gambling in New York? I'm not from New York. I'm from another terrible state called California. Is that really one of the major issues going on in New York? If anybody watches the Bald Brad Show and you're from New York, let me know in the comments below. Is this a major issue? Gambling sites and people's addiction to gambling? I mean, literally, you could just walk the streets, the rising crime, how much everything costs there. They always want to increase the minimum wage to the locality or the state level because it's so expensive to live there, which is just a revolving cycle. People are leaving because it's disgusting. You got trash everywhere. It smells bad. You can't fix your streets. You can't fix your roads. You can't fix the subways. I mean, it seems like a litany of things, very similar to California here. I'm not hounding you from New York because, hell, it ain't great where I'm at, but it ain't my fault. It's the Democrats' fault for voting in these politicians, just like you guys been doing in that state. We need to get some GOP in there to fix things. But hell, folks, I guess it's a major issue. Gambling sites.
Well, the big question is citing, and the answer is possibly. I mean, New York is continuing to add casinos around the state. You're seeing the impacts. For example, you want to talk fairness to Seneca Nation. The local share that gets taken out was based off of outdated times. They've now had all sorts of new casinos that have come in line. Citing is important. Local control is important. There is a process that is underway, and it shouldn't be jammed into areas that do not want it. We have to respect the will of the people.
Mrs. Hochul.
I'm not sure I heard the answer in there. No, we're not going to stop the process. This is an opportunity to recharge downstate communities, and there is a siting process. That's the one part I agree with, and it's underway because I got it moving. We have opportunity to create thousands of jobs. A lot of New York City workers who are in the hospitality field and worked in entertainment and places where they still haven't come back yet because of the pandemic, that we can give them jobs working in these places, as well as generating more revenues for our children to be able to get a good education. Under a plan to cut taxes, which is all you talk about, cut tax, I have to ask, where are you going to get the funding for education, investments in childcare, and paid family leave? So I think you got to have a real solid plan and not just all this rhetoric we're hearing.
Did she just talk about how it's not a good thing to lower taxes? What a great message. As inflation's through the roof, you're paying more at the pump and at the grocery store. Your rent's constantly going up in New York. You got to worry about freaking getting shot or mugged in the streets, stabbed. She wants to increase taxes, it seems like. Oh God, that's always the answer for Democrats. Well, we got to just hand out free money constantly. And the only way to get that is to take it from other people and just pass it out. I mean, that's their answer for everything. And then they can't fathom why everything in New York is so expensive. How about you kind of remove some of the red tape? How about you lower taxes a little bit? You lower the burden on the locale areas so that businesses aren't always feeling the pressure of certain results of you increasing minimum wage, which obviously if you increase minimum wage, you're going to increase rent. If you're going to increase rent, then you're going to increase taxes. And that's how you kind of carve out a place. We've seen that in other places around the United States, which is only going to hurt people. And it's going to hurt your state because then you got to keep increasing taxes because you're not getting more revenue because people are leaving. So it's just a vicious cycle. And like the gentleman said at the beginning, she's not going to fix anything. If she was, she would have done it by now. Democrats can never fix anything. And their answer to fixing it is more money. And if you say, well, that's not true, Brad, that's not the case. No, it literally is every time. That's all they want to do is just hand out more money like it's hotcakes. You don't have to look any further than the most recent administration, named the Biden administration, passing out stimulus COVID checks like they're hotcakes, which they should have done, but done it wisely and smartly rather than just giving it to anybody and everybody. You need to just give it to people that actually need it. But what they want to do is redistribute wealth. What they want to do is just give anybody and everybody a check so everyone's okay and equality and everyone's happy, singing kumbaya. They're just ransacking these states. They're ransacking these states, folks. And if you recall in yesterday's episode, which got copyrighted by The View, so we did have an episode 79 podcast of The Bald Brad Show, speaking of being throttled, that didn't get uploaded. But check this out while I'm on my rant. We did a whole podcast, and then every podcast I chop up per each segment that we do, and then I upload it and distribute it throughout the day. There was no copyright claim on those 3 episodes, but somehow there's a copyright claim on the main episode that was made up of those other 3 episodes, or at least segments. How does that happen? How do you get a copyright strike on the main episode, but you don't get a copyright strike on the very segment that's in the main episode? Go figure. But we debunked The View because The View pushed, speaking of The View, Whoopi Goldberg to be specific, of how red states supposedly had higher homicides and higher murder rates. But what they did was lie about it. There is truth. It is red states, but it was the blue areas, the Democrat-ran areas in those red states that had massive increase in homicides and murder rates because they don't know how to govern their local levels, their local state areas. Hell, they don't even know how to govern a state, let alone a country, which you see from the Biden administration. But they're going to constantly blame Republicans for everything. We see this from Karine Jean-Pierre. We see this from Joe Biden. We see this from other politicians across the state, that everything is Republicans' fault. But it can't be, because Republicans don't control the government. They don't control Congress right now. The Democrats do, and have done for the last 2 years. And they've completely taken a shellacking on this country because of the policies and the things they want to put in place. You can't blame Republicans. They don't need Republicans to pass things through. They just need themselves, and they can't do it. But they need a bad guy. If it ain't going to be Putin, and it ain't going to be Xi Jinping over there in another country, then hell, it's going to be ultimately the Republicans, because somehow we're the racist, sexist, bigot, homophobes, the insurrectionists, the MAGA Republicans, the ultra MAGA, the extremists, those that are a threat to democracy, hell, whatever you want to call us, somehow we're the ones to blame. It's never the Democrats. It's never Joe Biden. It's never anybody in that freaking administration. It's always our fault, folks. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. As always, again, we are being throttled by YouTube, folks. The midterms are coming up. We shouldn't be surprised if they're doing this. They will not silence us. They will not stop us from getting the message out that vote red. The red wave is coming, folks, but we need to make sure that we get out to the polls. Don't be lazy. Don't just think that we got this in the bag. We need to show up, and we need to show up big time. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.